So we're gonna do something a little bit different today. Always start with so. That's the number one rule of filmmaking. Always start by saying so. We're gonna do something a bit different today. All I wanna do is run through as many pointers as I can on stuff that I wish I knew before I started training. So we're gonna jump straight into it. Is cardio a good option for weight loss? The answer is yes. It's an exceptional way to lose weight for a very short period of time. Cardio cannot be your main focus when you're trying to lose weight. It needs to come from nutrition. It can be a good way to start and it might work in the short term, but your body will either break down or your body will adapt. You need to focus on your nutrition if you want to lose weight in the long term. The second part of that, something that's actually more valuable than cardio, is something we call NEAT. NEAT is a really big concept, but the most important thing to understand is that it's the energy you burn during the day when you're not doing exercise. Now, NEAT is more important. Spend time taking the stairs, carrying your shopping. It's little things like that that will actually make a big difference in the long run. Remember, when you're in the gym, you're trying to lengthen and shorten a muscle. How much weight you can lift doesn't change that. So going super heavy isn't gonna make a training session more effective. Make sure that you're focusing on understanding what muscle you're trying to use and taking it through a full length of motion. You're trying to create a stimulus in the muscle. You're trying to fully lengthen and fully shorten the muscle. How aggressively you do that, how heavy the weight is actually not gonna make that big a difference in how effective your training session is. And I'm gonna say this a lot, and you're not gonna believe me, but no one gives a fuck how much weight you can actually lift in the gym. I promise you you're not impressing anyone, because there will always be someone stronger than you. Focus on getting your technique right, and then slowly getting stronger over time. An impressive physique is much more important than someone skinny bench pressing double their body weight for a range that's about this big. And other pieces of advice that no one will actually take. So you get this question a lot. What is the perfect split? You know, in bodybuilding magazines, you'll read about chest, back, legs. The answer is, there is no perfect split. However, for a beginner, whole body is probably gonna be a good way to go. What training split should I be doing? You know, you get chest on Mondays, legs on Tuesdays, shoulders on Wednesdays. The answer is, there's no perfect split. And it's gonna be a little bit different for everyone. But if you're a beginner, training whole body every day, or at least every day you're in the gym, is probably gonna be a good place to start. It's gonna allow you to push really hard on each day and not have to be debilitated and cripplingly sore for the rest of your week. That means that you're gonna be able to get 3 or 4 days in a row of good quality training sessions. If you train chest on a Monday and you write yourself off, it takes you a whole week to recover from that, you're missing out on a lot of days that you could be doing some good quality training. You should always be trying to make your form better and better, but understand that your body is gonna be different to everyone else in the gym. The perfect squat doesn't exist because we all have different lever lengths, we all have different leg lengths. Making sure that you're working with what you've got is a really good way to improve yourself. If you're trying to copy what someone else is doing, it's a really good way to get yourself injured. If you're a young male listening to this, listen to it twice. It's really important that you do your own reps. If you're lucky enough to train with a spotter, have your gym bro there to help you, do not let them do your last 6 reps for you. There's no point. All you're gonna do is be sore the next day and actually get less progress from it. Bros. These are all directed at bros. Keep things simple. If there was one piece of advice that I could give to myself, it would be to keep things simple. Do not overcomplicate it. You can read a lot of information out there. You can spend all your days reading through Reddit or T-Nation or bodybuilding.com. YouTube's a great resource, but none of that is actually gonna help you if you don't get into the gym and consistently apply one thing. This is really important, that there is no perfect thing that you can do. So stop trying to find it. Keep learning, but make sure you stick with one thing, train the same training method for 4 to 6 months. Right? Most people don't do that. 4 to 6 months of the same training method before you actually decide if it works or not. Don't program jump. Don't just do the same thing for 2 weeks at a time, then decide it doesn't work and move on to something different. Give yourself time to adapt. 4 to 6 months is a really good time to spend training one program before you move on to the next one. Something that I'm really big on is the 80-20 principle. What that means is that 80% of your results will come from 20% of the effort. 20% of your results will come from 80% of the effort. What that means is that a few things that you do will produce almost all of your results. Those things are the fundamentals. Keep things simple, don't get overcomplicated. A really good example of something that gets very overcomplicated and actually will give you almost no results is supplements. The only supplement that you need to be considering as a newbie lifter is maybe protein if your main priority is putting on muscle. Everything else, save your money. There are a few that might make a difference later on, but realistically, it's gonna be a small change and you should work hard enough now that you have to earn those supplements later. The only exception to that is caffeine. Always more caffeine. Should I bulk? Should I cut? The answer is that your diet should reflect the body you're trying to achieve. You want to fuel for the body that you want. So if your main priority is to put on muscle, as much muscle as possible, then you need to be eating in what's called a calorie surplus. That means day in, day out, we should see you putting on a little bit of weight. Okay, you don't have to do the old school dirty bulk of eating 10,000 calories and seeing how fat you can get. A little bit of weight will do. And if you do that over a long enough time period, yes, you are gonna put on some fat, but you'll probably put on a lot of muscle through that process as well. On the other hand, if you're trying to lean down and you still wanna keep looking good, then your job is to eat in a slight calorie deficit. That means you're probably gonna wanna see the scales go down slowly or stay about the same so that your body can adapt while you put on muscle through that process. Starving yourself does not work. And this is something that some of you will need to hear over and over again, but there's no need to be constantly hungry. If you've got a lot of weight to lose, then yes, you will probably have to be hungry at some point. But for most of us, our job is to lose weight while actually being as full of nutrients as possible, right? Prioritizing whole food, making sure you're still enjoying yourself, but figuring out a way to make those scales slowly go down will save you a lot of time and effort in the long run. How many sets and reps do I need to do? So studies will actually tell us these days that anywhere from 8 to 30 can actually produce a pretty similar result. So there's no better or worse. However, there are some things that you should know or at least consider when you're designing your program. If you're a beginner, somewhere around the 10 to 15 rep mark is probably going to be about right. The reason for that is if you're aiming for an exercise that you can do for about 10 to 15 reps, it's probably gonna have quite a low injury risk. You're probably not gonna be using a super heavy weight, and you're probably going to be able to actually practice pretty good form over and over and over again. If you're doing 3 reps, you're using fucking heavy weight, and you don't actually have time to practice form under that heavy weight. So when we say 8 to 30 reps, it's really important that for every set, you're actually pushing pretty close to failure. Now, what I mean when I say failure is not complete destruction of your body. It means the point that your form or technique starts to break down. It's the point that you start swinging, where you start moving your body around. That's failure. So as long as you're stopping a few reps short of failure, when you're still hitting really good form, you'll probably get a good result from that set. Pushing too far past failure can actually slow down your recovery and your progress. But if you're not pushing hard enough and you can do another 5 to 10 reps in that set, you're also probably not training hard enough to actually stimulate the body. Again, the goal of perfect really sets a lot of people back. You will never be perfect. Don't aim for perfect. Aim for consistent and aim for better. If every session you do, you're trying to be a little bit better, you will get eventually very close to perfect. If you're aiming for perfect, you'll always miss it and you'll always be disappointed in yourself. This is my final point and probably the most important for me. The start is going to be the hardest, but it's also going to be the most effective. If I ask you to do a backflip, when are you going to fall on your head the most? At the start, right? But when are you also going to learn the most about doing a backflip? At the start. The gym and tracking nutrition and getting on top of these things is gonna be tough. Give yourself time, allow yourself to fail, and enjoy that learning process. It happens faster than you think when you're consistently trying and when you're okay with consistently failing. Guys, we got through a lot. I hope that's really useful for you. I've got a whole nother list of points that I want to go through, so I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if there's any that you think I've missed or anything that you're really struggling with. Coach Cadd, see you next time. One of the things that people don't actually take into account is when you're in a calorie deficit, like when you're dieting for an extended period of time, your body gets so fucking efficient at not doing things. Like, that's one of the reasons why when you're in comp prep, like, people look like they're mad all the time. It's because you've been in a diet for so long that your body will stop using calories to move your facial expressions. So it's not that you're actually angry, it's that your eyebrows burn too many calories to actually use.